One evening, I was alone and driving down a quiet road. I was concerned because I was about to run out of gas. Fortunately, I noticed an old gas station with signs for snacks and fuel up ahead. When I stopped at the gas station, it had a really retro vintage appearance. I noticed a bulletin board with papers on it in the chilly environment. The word "missing" was written above a picture of a smiling man. For his family, I felt sorrow. Joe, an elderly man, emerged from the store as I was refueling my vehicle. It was difficult to see his eyes because of his messy beard and glasses. He greeted me in a gruff manner, as if he hadn't spoken to many people recently. I greeted him and inquired as to whether he required anything. "I just need some gas and a snack," he said. I addressed him as Joe as we shook hands. While I was filling up my car, Joe leaned on the gas pump and displayed some odd behavior. He was quiet though. I then began to discuss a man who had gone missing. I pointed at the picture on the bulletin board and said, "Is anyone missing around here?" "It's very upsetting when someone disappears," Joe sighed. He looked uncomfortable as he continued to tap his fingers on the pump. "It is gloomy. Many people in the area have been inquiring about him. I wonder if he's still alive." It seemed odd to me that Joe was keeping something from me when he talked about the missing man. I therefore said, "Must be really difficult for his family." Joe softly agreed that it was difficult as his expression changed. My suspicions were aroused by his words and his downward gaze. So I questioned him about the missing man. "Yes, I was aware of him," Joe acknowledged him with a small smile. "Certain things, however, are better left in the past. Digging everything up would be useless." I thanked Joe and finished putting gas in my car, but I had a strange feeling. When we brought up the missing man, Joe displayed odd behavior. He gave off the impression that he was concealing something. I kept thinking about that gas station for a few days after that. I started reading news articles, searching online, checking neighborhood forums, and learning more about the missing man. It became stranger the more I looked. The man appeared to have disappeared overnight. I made the decision to confront Joe about it when I returned to the gas station. The location felt spooky when I got there though. It appeared spooky because the lights were flickering. Joe was hanging a fresh flyer on the bulletin board inside the shop when I entered. I was shocked to see my own image on the flyer. "Mark, you shouldn't have come back," Joe said as he turned to face me before I had a chance to respond. Joe firmly grabbed my wrist as I desperately tried to flee after becoming anxious. "Mark, I apologize. In the same way as the others, you were getting too close." I was able to escape and I sped off in my car. When I first arrived in town, I immediately called the police. They didn't seem to fully believe me. The investigation appeared to stall as time went on. No solutions were available to me. Then I came across a news article with a headline, "Missing Man Found Dead in Gas Station Basement." My spine tingled as I read it. In the basement of the gas station, the police had discovered the body of the missing man. I was traveling down a lengthy, winding road one evening. Only a dilapidated gas station with poor lighting could be seen in the pitch blackness as evidence of human presence. Even though it appeared to have not been fixed since the 1970s, I had to stop there because my gas tank was nearly empty. Walking up to the old pumps gave me a strange feeling. Additionally strange was the employee. Because of the way his back was curved, he appeared shorter than he actually was and appeared much older. His eyes were frightening in their intensity. I made an effort to limit my gaze to him. "Please fill it up with regular," I said as I handed him my credit card. He didn't say anything. All he did was take my card and swipe it on a dated machine. In the quiet night, it made a loud noise. I turned to look and noticed an attendant sitting by the pump, closely observing me as it worked. My skin shivered at it, so I uttered, "Nice night, huh?" He kept looking at me rather than responding right away. Last but not least, he said in a low, raspy voice that chilled me, Nice enough for those who don't know what lurks. I raised an eyebrow because I wasn't sure if he was trying to frighten me or if he was just chatting in his own peculiar way. This place has witnessed some creepy things, he said as he leaned in. Some claim that there are terrifying things in these woods that even brave people can't handle, and people have vanished. I giggled hesitantly, unsure of whether he was playing a practical joke on me or if he actually believed all of this. I promised to stay in well-lit areas. Light doesn't always provide protection, he said while chuckling softly, which gave me the creeps once more. Even in the most visible places, he claimed, darkness can find you. I practically ran to my car after he gave me my card back because I felt like I had just gotten out of a trap. When I turned around to leave, the attendant was still glaring at me. There was something strange about that location, and the road ahead appeared darker than it had been. To get myself off of the attendant's words, I turned up the radio, but it didn't work. Although I had traveled a distance, I was still aware of someone watching me. My thoughts kept returning to those unsettling tales he had told me about people vanishing in these woods shadows. My gas gauge was still showing E, I saw later. Because of the attendant's deception, my car wasn't filled up, but I was unable to return. In front of me, I noticed a sign for another gas station. This one appeared to be busier and more modern. I quickly filled up my gas tank and made an effort to leave the unsettling attendant behind. I turned to face him, however, and noticed he was observing me from the property's edge of the gas station. When I was far from that location, I looked back. My heart was racing, so I sped away. My trip continued with a lot of anxiety. I became tense at the slightest shadow or rustling leaf. I eventually arrived at my destination, but I never discovered what that attendant was actually up to. Whether he was just a strange old man with terrifying tales, or something much scarier. My constant companion during the night shift at the gas station, especially on slow weekdays, was boredom. The only excitement I experienced was the occasional car pulling in for gas or snacks. In light of this, the sound of the phone ringing felt like a sudden interruption of the night's silence. "Welcome to the gas station, by the way." My voice was worn out from hours of repetition as I replied, "How may I be of assistance?" Then there was silence, and I questioned whether the call had been made in jest. Finally, a low, raspy voice could be heard over the phone saying, "I know you're alone." My hold on the phone became more firm as a chill ran up my spine. "Why do you inquire?" The line echoed with a dry chuckle. "Well, keep it that way since you don't know me." I looked around the empty shop as my heart raced. "If this is a joke, it's not funny," the voice emphasized. "It's not a joke." Fear slithered all over me. "Who are you?" "Someone was watching over you." I took a quick look at the security camera feed, which showed a parking lot that was deserted and unsettlingly dark, lit only by flickering fluorescence. I was about to hang up, irritated, when the voice interrupted and said it knew more about me than I could have ever imagined. I rubbed my temples as I hung up the phone. The words lingered, unsettling me, even though I knew it had to be some sick prank. Feeling exposed, I took another look around the shop. The phone rang once more after some time. "I've had it with your nonsense. I'll call the police if you call again." Strong words, my friend. Although you won't, you don't want them to find out about your personal details. My forehead began to perspire as the voice chuckled. "You'll discover the truth soon enough." My breath was shaking as I dropped the phone. I glanced out the window, hoping to catch a glimpse of a shadowy figure, but all that was there was a deserted parking lot, bathed in ominous light. The calls got scarier as the night dragged on. I felt uneasy because the caller had access to personal information about my life. I shook with rage as I answered another call. "If you believe that you have scared me, "You are mistaken. Police have been contacted." "You're not safe from the police," came the icy whisper in response. I slammed the phone down and shook as I dialed 911 and described the emergency. A patrol car was on the way, they assured me. I huddled behind the counter and kept an eye on the time. I was paralyzed by fear at every sound. My anxiety was finally calmed by a patrol car flashing red and blue lights. In order to meet the police, I hurried outside. When I fully explained, their faces grew grave. They returned, shaking their heads, having looked around. No one was discovered. "Tonight, we'll keep an eye on the area. If anything else happens, call us," said one officer. The rest of the night was filled with anxiety and fear as I closed the blinds and locked the doors. I was plagued by the impression that I was being watched. The relief of morning led me to believe that the nightmare was over, but a note on the window shattered my serenity. "I'll be seeing you." I hadn't realized how close the threat was, and I thought it might be a neighbor or a coworker.